And hello again, dear ones. Rev Briz with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today, our weekly look at the New Thought movement and the philosophy upon which all of this is based and grounded upon. This week, we wanted to bring in a special guest and chat more and get more on the real life applications, how this stuff really works, and not just in the theory. So we are very, very excited. Rev Jersey Girl's with us here in the house today. Hello, dear one. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very well. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Good to be here again. I love the station.
What we've been looking at, and I want to give us a real quick overview here. Get ready. Here we go. We believe in God, the living spirit almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existing cause. We believe this one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. That the manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcoming of the infinite self-knowingness of God. And we believe in the incarnation of spirit in every person, and that all people are incarnations of God.
We believe in the eternal, the immortality, and the continuance of the individual soul. I couldn't see that because of the logo of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. We believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be obtained by all.
We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of the individual, and that any person may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God.
We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thoughts and acts upon it. We believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this mind. We believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind.
We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that the life of each of us is God.
This is what, for me, makes the difference of whether or not you can benefit or not from these principles. And this is it.
Okay.
That if, no exceptions, that if we live, if we believe, and we move from what we believe in this way, and we have no exceptions, if we don't say, oh yeah, but only if, not when, and we leave out the exceptions and we act from, think about it, take any one of them. We believe in the unity of all life, that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. This statement is huge. It's huge. If it doesn't move you off your seat. Now, and I appreciate not everybody likes the word God. I get that. And I want to hold the space for people who don't resonate with that term. So let's do it this way. If we believe in the unity of all life, that the highest expression of love and the innermost expression of love is one love. Okay, even that, I can live with that. And you can replace that with anything else. And in my very humble and somewhat experienced opinion at this point, after many years, they get reduced and we lose their power because we think we have found exceptions. But with the practice of no exception, then they come alive.
And sometimes in my mind, looking for exceptions mean looking for a shortcut. And in actuality, there is no shortcut. You can create an environment that will enhance the growth of a specific thing or a specific embodiment of an idea or concept, but it's not shortcutted. You just gave it more fertile ground to grow than previously, or someone else maybe. And so when we begin to take these ideas seriously and begin to try to activate them in our lives, well, what does it mean? The innermost God and the highest God are one God. What does that mean? And not in a theoretical sense, but what does it mean to me?
Right.
Because then I can begin to articulate that in a way and exhibit that in a way that it becomes a living example and becomes clear to anyone who wants to know what that means when I make that statement.
No exceptions isn't easy.
No.
Or many find that it isn't easy, right? Because
No,
it's
no, you can say it's not easy. It's not even easy for the devout. So when I say that we believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us and that we experience the kingdom to the degree that we become conscious of it, and I act from that, I am calling for that experience inside of me. And I don't wait for anything outside. I don't wait for the Republicans or the Democrats or the whatever. I walk in it. Right? You can tell I'm kind of passionate around this subject.
Quite all right.
Because the question is, who am I being? Who am I being?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the beauty of belief statements as I see them. Because we can say that we believe anything, right? But if you actually believe something and you embody and act from that belief, it's evident. There's an energy, there's an emotion, there's a magnetism, there's a expertise-ness, making up a word here, that you do things from when you're in that kind of a space. And you can tell. No one has to say anything. No one has to explain anything. It's just as they say in the old days, it's just a vibe that you walk into and you feel that vibe and you say, ooh, there's something going on in here. I'm not sure what it is or what, but I know for sure it is here and it is affecting me. And since we know it's all God, even if I bump up against a belief that's a little more expanded than mine, I'm open to the idea, as Ernest would say, to be open at the top, that I need to expand my belief. I need to expand my awareness to incorporate these new points of view, these new discoveries, these new things of interest that I have not been exposed to previously.
Right. And I think there is a way that we also have to look at that, kind of taking the backward route to and tracing everything back. When I'm presented with somebody that believes that is obviously sharing racist or misogynistic beliefs, things that I obviously know to be false, to be misuse of the law, that I know are not in the highest. The humanness wants to make them wrong, and the divine says, hold on a minute, how about some compassion here? How about some love here?
Well, and that's the beauty of belief statements as I see them, because we can say that we believe anything, right? But if you actually believe something and you embody and act from that belief, it's evident. There's an energy, there's an emotion, there's a magnetism, there's a expertise-ness, making up a word here, that you do things from when you're in that kind of a space. And you can tell. No one has to say anything. No one has to explain anything. It's just as they say in the old days, it's just a vibe that you walk into and you feel that vibe and you say, ooh, there's something going on in here. I'm not sure what it is or what, but I know for sure it is here and it is affecting me. And so when we believe something, it makes life a little bit easier, I believe, because it gives us a frame of reference to operate from. It gives us a point of reference to compare things or bounce things off or to measure them from, if you will. And since we know it's all God, even if I bump up against a belief that's a little more expanded than mine, I'm open to the idea, as Ernest would say, to be open at the top, that I need to expand my belief. I need to expand my awareness to incorporate these new points of view, these new discoveries, these new things of interest that I have not been exposed to previously. And if you want to have your exceptions, that's fine. I mean, because like you say, we all have them, but just know when the thing does not work the way it is described to be working, know that that exception you made might just be the cause, right? So we have to understand that, because we're all growing into this life, these ideas, these concepts. And sometimes, there's a saying that goes something like, Lord, I know my belief, but help me in my unbelief. And it's that unbelief part that we're struggling with. And when we have that, the thing is not going to act, it's like having a car and I don't believe in gas. Well, if I got a gas car, it ain't going to go. And so we have that same kind of idea and parallel, if you will, in life and spirituality and growth.
Don't give free access to your subconscious. Be of critical mind. Pay attention. See, what you believe seeps into your beingness, but you have the conscious part of our mind is the gatekeeper, and we have to discipline that gatekeeper to choose to focus on or pay attention to different things. And so the power, there's power in the subconscious, but there's power in the conscious mind, and we have to find the balance between those two.
Sometimes we have to break these things down into common terms or common experiences or metaphors or whatever it is for people to be able to see themselves inside of it. And that's the thing. Ernest, one of the things I love that Ernest said was he would give his lectures and talks, and he says, don't take my word. Go practice this stuff in the laboratory of your own life.
Yep.
That way you understand it, you can make reference points, and you can operate from that place. But at some point, you can tell me all day how to swim. You can show me films and how to cut my hand and turn my head. But until I jump in the water and start experimenting with those techniques, I am never going to swim. There's a poem that goes, I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. I'd rather one walk with me than just to show the way. The eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And this is New Thought today on the New Thought Media Network. If you're just joining us, myself and my co-host, Reverend Z, we're here today with special guest, Dr. Kenn Gordon. So Kenn is a longtime minister and religious scientist. I'm sure you get it as much as everybody does when people ask, well, what do you believe after all? And, that would be a mouthful to try and recite and get somebody to understand. We do it every week, and I'm not sure it's effective. But when people come to you, of those guiding principles and ideas, how do you approach that question of what we believe, and which of these have been probably the most impactful for you?
Well, I try to summarize them and bring them down, condense them to the best of my ability. You know, we believe in an infinite power that works through us and as us, and that we have the opportunity to work through it and as it. And that we do this through our belief system. And the manifestation is that we create in our life what we think about, and we create in our life what we truly believe. That belief is an interesting thing because it's not just conscious belief, it's unconscious and conscious. It's a total belief package that a person has. I've run into far too many people in my life who have a tendency to want to believe that this teaching is about what you know consciously, and to surrender your unconscious knowledge and not go within and do the healing work that's necessary to make it happen.
That idea of a world that works for everyone has been around. You know, Dr. King and his whole beloved community, he speaks of that same essence of we have to create a world where everybody has equitable access, and there's justice and there's freedom for everybody to share in the abundance and the well-being of life.
It can be a world where you can have the beauty everywhere, and we have to grow through some stuff to get to the place where we can even understand that. It's not limited by finances. It's not limited by lack in any way, shape, or form. What it's limited by is the willingness for people to have a different idea than the one that they've entered into already. I like this topic. I'm glad it's fired up. Everything in the world has a purpose. We know that from a scientific point of view. You know, most of us are well educated enough, at least in North America, that we understand that every living thing is there to accommodate and work with every other living thing.
Yes.
And so we have this magnificent tendency to say that everything is perfect, whole, and complete on the outside except ourselves. And you know, maybe perhaps we can thank the line that said, "And God gave humankind," or mankind is what it was written as, dominion over the earth. Well, that's so much hogwash. The simple fact of the matter is that we're part of the wholeness of it. And if we all were to live from our true nature, and I'm talking about the true nature, I'm not talking about the neuroses, I'm not talking about the nature that says I should, or I could, or I will, or I would. I'm talking about where you were born to. We would come together like a mosaic and work in perfection. Everybody would bring skills and talents forward. But instead, we live within a mindset, a zeitgeist, that says you have to do this to be complete and whole. You have to achieve this. You have to own this. You have to have this. And when we come from that place, instead of understanding the divinity of the nature of who we are in the first place, then the end result is we're always in competition with each other to be able to get somewhere. And this new mindset that's taking over the world, that's being birthed right now, that could be conceived or perceived as being very, very painful. This new mindset that's coming out is the movement from the competitive consciousness to the creative consciousness, to be able to move us so that what we do is we get to fulfill ourselves and be who we are, and know that we fit in, and that there is no judgment from society around it. Instead, there is an acceptance. And when we operate from the foundation of the truth of who we are, once again, not from the idea of lack or not from the idea of missing, what will happen is we'll have a world that works for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that part. It's moving beyond the competition, moving into that place of cooperation, collaboration, and co-creation is the way I like to say it. The 3 C's, right? We learn to cooperate with each other, and that leads us to collaborating with each other, and that leads to a recognition that we're co-creating this thing with the divine and with each other. And it can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes. I'll be straight up with you. It can be tough when I see something online or somewhere and go, "Ooh, ow! I that could have been my." Or And half the time, I think it's more competition with myself.
Mm-hmm.
We're all headed in the same direction. And the difference between anybody on this planet is exactly this much. Nothing. There's only one life. Yeah. And that life is God's life, and it is everywhere present, and we individualize it. And we're learning to be able to understand that the individualization of that needs to be more in line with the replication of the perfection of it, of the divinity of it, rather than the replication of the neuroses or the minutia that comes and shows up with it. There's no reason why anybody should be hungry. There's no reason why anybody shouldn't have opportunity to get an education. There's no reason why anybody should have water issues. There's no reason for any of that except the lack of a willingness for us to make a different choice and make a different world. So instead of having 1% of the people owning everything because they won the game of competition, it's possible for everybody to have everything.
Yeah.
In 2008, when the markets all crashed and everything happened, you might remember that time. I remember at that particular point, I was giving a talk at the World Parliament of Religions in Melbourne, Australia. And the topic I was given was the sustainability of food and water in the world today. Mm-hmm. And it just so happened that I was a farmer in California for 12 years. So I was used to growing stuff. And I remember using the analogy of seeing a 640-acre field being plowed under because the market wasn't good enough, and taking all the food off of it. And I asked the corporate farmers why they just didn't give it away. And it was the obvious answer is, well, if we give it away, then we can't sell it, then we can't grow it, therefore we wouldn't have it. That's a system. It's an economic system. I was telling this once, and somebody called me a Marxist, and I'm not a Marxist. I'm a pragmatic idealist. And but I remember the setup on the whole thing is that we have all the food in the world. We have the ability to be able to create more than enough. We have an ability to be able to live in a clean environment. Why don't we? And the reason is because we are addicted to the system that we were raised in, instead of opening the door for a new system to take place. And it's not going to be called communism, socialism, capitalism, democracy. It's going to have a new name and a new version. And it's actually going to be one that frees not only humanity, but frees this world, in my opinion. A world that works for everyone. Yeah.
And you know, I think the beauty of it, I mean, from the Science of Mind and Spirits portfolio, if you will, we've always had the mantra that this is an ideology, this is the teaching for the times. Well, if we didn't quite believe that then, I mean, we should really believe it now, because when we look at what we're faced with and what the teachings provide us, I mean, if we just look at the first statement of the textbook, right? Ernest said, I look forward to the day that spirituality and religion will walk hand in hand. Well, right now, that is more prevalent, it is more palatable, and it is more accessible than any other time. You know, there's the saying that there used to be a time when scientists would say, oh, I don't believe in God. But now almost all scientists say, yeah, I believe in God, because when I look at the relationship between these two things, it's just the flip side of a coin. And we haven't been looking at it in its totality, in its wholeness. And that's what life is calling for us now. We have to begin to be more holistic in how we live and act and think and co-create with the divine.
And here's the thing. We're being pulled to become more creative in that way. You know, so you can look at the pandemic as a curse, and there's a lot of good reasons to do that with 500,000 dead in the United States. But you can also look at it as a wake-up call. Mm-hmm. You can look at the political state, the separation that's going on, it appears to be going on in the world today. You could look at that as a negative, or you could look at it as a positive. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's going to work. Spirit that the intelligence for good that runs through the universe is going to eventually dissolve and dissipate anything that isn't good. The line I use with my students is that Spirit loved you so much it'll pull you through cheesecloth to have you. It literally will yank you through whatever it is in order to get you balanced and get you knowing the truth of yourself and the truth of the world that's around you. And we know from past experience that the way to get there isn't to fight it. Any common sense, logical, intelligent person knows you don't fight the infinite. What you do is you surrender to it. When you surrender to it, what will happen is it comes to you.
Yes.
Otherwise, you live your life in struggle. And so what we have before us right now for the last couple of years, for the last few decades, for the last 1,000 years, for the last 100,000 years, is what Troward says is the evolution of humanity.
Yeah.
We are awakening, and we are awakening constantly and consistently. And as we awaken, what we are doing is we're being drawn and attracted into a higher way of thinking than we ever thought before. My kids are more spiritual than I ever dreamt of being, and it's because they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're evolutionary generation behind, so therefore they have a closer contact already. And that's what life's supposed to be about. Life's supposed to be about constantly expanding to the greater idea. And those of us who are old dogs are just being stuck if we're not willing to surrender to it. Believe me, it will win. Holmes wrote, I believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of humanity, and that any person may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. And, you can choose any word you want. You can, the Islamic, Muslim say, there are 99 words for God, and one of them is Robert.
Yes.
And so I don't want to get stuck on the wording of it, but what you're saying is all you have to do is look around you. You think turning water into wine was a miracle? Man, giving birth to a baby is a miracle. You think raising the dead is a miracle? Life
raising a teenager is a miracle.
It's everywhere. And the other thing is that it's abundant and it's beautiful.
Yes.
It blows me away with its beauty, providing I wake up and look at it instead of looking at the grief that's all around that I could choose to hold on to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is just, that is key, because to me anyway, because that idea of holding on, the moment I realize that I'm holding on to something, right? Nature causes my body to tense and everything, and my heart starts beating, my breath gets shallow. But the moment I can just surrender to that moment, whatever it is, whether it's joyous or non-joyous, whether it's, abundant or non-abundant, doesn't matter, because as you said earlier, there's only one life, and that life is God life, and that life is our life now. So when we surrender into that, all of that stuff goes away, and through the revelation of the creative connection to the divine, the answer comes.
If you're not spending your energy of awareness on what you want, then you're spending it on something else. I got news for you. That something else is becoming your reality.
Yes.
That's how come where it demands us to see the beauty. Yeah. Because when you see it, we attract more of it. We see it more often and better. And that's been the key to all the great avatars throughout history, all the great teachers that have ever been. They've all taught the same thing, that life is beautiful. Take it, look at it.
Yeah.
Focus on what you want, let God take care of the how.
Yeah.
When we get stuck on the how, that's all the humanness, and focus on what we want in the divine, and God takes care of the how. How about a future vision? We've got this world that we've got all these statements, and we've got to grasp. And I think if you've been watching this show, folks, you do have an idea on how you're being called to be part of this great vision. What are we creating, guys? What's it going to look like? A world that works for everyone.
Oh, well, I really like to believe, and I'm holding that vision true, is that I'm from the South, and my grandfather had a farm, and I understood. I mean, him and his brothers, they had like 300 acres of land almost. And so when I think about what it took to farm that land and to generate a harvest, it was everybody working together. No, because if we didn't work together, there was stuff not being harvested. There was all kinds. There was chickens who were not getting the eggs, and so they sat on them too long, and they turned to chickens and not eggs. And so this integral approach where everybody understands that no matter what the situation, we can get through it if we work together. And sometimes you may have to do something you don't like, but that's okay. The end results, to have that meal on the table, if you will, or have those produce ready to sell at the farmer's market to generate some income, to do that exchange of energy, was well worth it. And so that's what I'm hoping we move back towards. And that's what I know and believe in my heart that we are. This interrelated relationship between all aspects of life working together to create a solid, unified oneness.
All righty. There you go, Ken. He set you up.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, I think a unified oneness is where we're moving to, a recognition and a realization that we've never been separate, period, ever. And it's the awareness of it. And I think that where I'm moving in my life is I'm moving towards that place of freedom. You know, I retired a year ago, and obviously I'm still doing things like this, but I'm only doing what I want to do. And I'll tell you what's interesting about that is I'm not doing stuff that I don't want to do for exterior reasons. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm really checking in with myself when I take an activity or do an action, whether or not I wanted to do it. But if I get invited out for lunch, I ask whether or not I'm willing to do that. I want to do that. And if I do, I do it. If I don't, I don't. And that's been a freedom which has been uncovering for me all of the misguided reasons why I might have done something in the past. And I've always been a person who did it for the joy and the feeling of the accomplishment that came with it. But even now, I'm finding little areas of activities that I've done in my life that are being done for extracurricular reasons rather than for the real ones. And so I think that what will happen for humanity is when it wakes up, it will stop doing things because they want to do it or change their mind about why they're doing it, rather than doing it out of resentment and spite and having stuff held on. And with that freedom, what happens is that all the health and the flow of the universe enters into your life, and you suddenly start living that life of joy. And it's so much easier to see and to witness and to experience because you're not being stuck in an idea that you have to do something against your will.
Beautifully said. Thank you. And you, again, articulated a great example I had today. I was this close to telling my son, well, you know, you just got to get through this so you can get a good job, so you can earn enough money, so you can get out of my house and take care of yourself and do this and do that, do that. And I had to stop myself. I said, wait a minute, well, hold on. Whoa. That's buying into the old limited paradigm that we have to do what we have to do to pay the bills or to put food on the table or to all the various ways we've been taught to say that, to articulate that concept. What I love and what I hear from both of you and you know, what I would add to it as well, folks, is that we're moving into a place where all these words actually become demonstrated, where it's not just a vision of a world where there's enough food and we're free of homelessness. There is a world, and we're living that moment by moment by moment, day by day. And I believe we do that in a lot of different ways but much as we've talked about today, right, guys? We got to listen and then follow the inspiration.
Do your spiritual work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got an amazing guest with us, one of the, in my opinion, luminaries of new thought and so many other things as well. The great and right and Reverend Dr. David Alexander is with us today. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Yep. I think this is a great time. I'm so excited that Dr. David is with us, because these 3 points, if you will, encapsulate, I think, what we should be envisioning in the future going into 2021 and beyond, in terms of how we come together as a community, as a people, as a planet, to set up this integral, not necessarily, integral would take care of all that other stuff we're talking about, because they'll know there's some synergy between the different parts and they won't be looked at as individuals. But I think this is just perfect. I can't wait to hear Reverend David's boom, or if you will, on future of life, if you will.
I'm delighted to be here. Always happy to discuss, global consciousness and spirituality, and as it relates to our global vision. I've said for a long time about our global vision and about our mission and vision, being the vision being a world that works for everyone, and that mission of providing personal and collective tools for spiritual awakening. That those things, when we voted on them, however long, 9-10 years ago now. Yeah. I say this often. I don't think the majority of people, even though the vote was 99% for one of the things, and I think 97% or 98% for the bylaws, I don't think people really knew what they were voting for. And I say that because that vision and that mission is inherently social, and it's inherently justice oriented by the very nature of how it's defined, right? The vision of creating a world that works for everyone immediately takes you out of yourself. And that is a big leap for a movement that, if I dare say in this moment, has been so self-centered for so long, right? And all of a sudden, boom, overnight, we've got a mission that is inherently not localized in the self. It's localized in the world. That is a huge paradigm shift. And then providing the tools for that awakening suggests action, right? For personal empowerment, not just personal empowerment, but collective, to make the world a better place, not just to make my life better. So these statements are, and the global vision goes right along with that. The global vision is the meat on the bones. So the vision and mission are kind of the bones or the structure, and then the meat on the bones is the global vision. And the global vision is a lot like it's a guiding document, and it's very much like the founding documents of this country. It's something that should always push us forward and inspire us to stretch into it. And we should always find some place of sort of, some rub with it, in that,
right,
that it's challenging us because we're not quite there yet. That's exactly what it should do. So I really love this document, and I love the chance to talk about it today.
Yeah. Let's give everybody a quick reminder that, as Dr. David's referring, the mission, purpose, and vision of Centers for Spiritual Living. Our mission is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence, and our vision is a world that works for everyone. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and as I said in the beginning, that was that explosion. The way he just explained that so succinctly and so clear that I think no matter who you are or where you are on any kind of scale, spectrum, whatever you want to call yourself in terms of where you are, there is a place in that for you to join in and say, let's make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let's dig in a little more to the specifics. What we call statement number 5 on the list, we envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. And we talk about meat on the bones. This is for me the one that's like, man, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is the everything and the all of these statements. And again, we'd love to get your perspective on it.
Yeah, well, you know, this one's it, man. This is the boom right here. This is the emerald, right? Pow, bam.
Definitely.
I mean, let's just take a look at, we envision a world where, let's break these down. Personal responsibility joins with social conscience. Personal responsibility and social conscience joining together. And this is fairly new territory for our movement, new thought, but also more specifically the Centers for Spiritual Living movement, where I would say historically we have been focused on the personal responsibility part. Right, we teach people how to be mindful of your own consciousness, how your thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs affect your own life. And if you want those things to get better, you want your relationships, your finances, your job, your whatever get better, then, you know, first be mindful of your own self-talk, examine critically that self-talk to figure out where the hidden beliefs are, and then go to work on those hidden beliefs to create a more positive vision and outlook. That's all very, you know, what led to the New Thought movement really led to the self-help movement. Right. And that all of that work that's out there on that, affirmations and positive thinking and positive visioning and et cetera. So that's the personal responsibility. But this statement is saying, hang on, that's just the beginning. Personal responsibility joins with social conscience, right? And so that would be enough. We just end the statement right there. Responsibility joins with social conscience. Okay, that means that's heavy. That's heavy stuff now.
You know, and the interesting thing there is that you know, like you said, when you guys sat down and came up with this, you know, it was there. It was a great statement. How many people bought into it is you know, okay, that's up for questions. But how succinctly that right now, in a time where at least in that one statement alone, everything applies. You can't say, okay, I'm gonna do this and drop that, or I'm gonna do 2 but not 3. You got to do it all, and it's so wonderful to see how spirit works, how God works to make these things that we think are insignificant sometimes. Not that this was insignificant, but you know, there's not a lot of thought given to it, and then at the right place and time, you get the boom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the framers, the people that were in the room, were very inspired by spirit and had something pretty big and grand in mind. But I think the people who voted on it, you know, let's just face it, right? Let's just be honest. New Thought people, we're wordsmithy people. We love big flowery words, right? We love it in our prayers. We love it in our affirmations. We love it in our sermons. Our founder would just, you know, if he didn't have the right word, he'd just add NESS to the end of a word and just make it work. You know, it was like, you know, so we were making up words all the time. So we are
real quick. That is the heart of that personal responsibility one, the very first one where you have to start. You can fool anybody outside, but on the inside, you know what's cooking. And so that's a conversation, a dance, however you want to frame it, that each of us have to take upon ourselves to say, there's more that can be done, and I have a part to play. Let me check myself at the door before we even get started, which is wonderful.
Right. And the next part of personal responsibility is really examining, what our role in the things that are happening is. How, and so that bumps up against all kinds of things. That bumps up against privilege. That bumps up against constructs of racism and whiteness and all kinds of things. Political, because it is all consciousness based. Everything that's happening, So the easy way out is, the old version of personal responsibility is, well, everybody just kind of mind your own business, mind your own thoughts. And I don't want my minister to talk politically. I don't want to talk about these subjects at church. I want to, just tell me how to make good choices and be a good person and leave the rest alone. And if anybody who knows me out there following, I consider myself part of the charge of ministry for me is to be a prophetic voice. And being a prophetic voice means challenging systems and structures. And it be they political or wherever they may be. They most often are political, the ones that are working against our collective best interest. But it's not because I seek to be a political person. I seek to be embodying this personal responsibility, intersecting and joining with every sector in a way that is awakening humanity. And that means I'm going to be courageous and willing to examine the consciousness behind the thing, right?
Yes.
The much more comfortable way to go is to just say, well, those people over there think differently than me, and they're responsible for their thoughts. And we over here, we think this way, and we're responsible for our thoughts. Let everybody be personally responsible. And we kind of use it as a crutch as to not engage, right? And that's not what it means, because that is actually practicing a form of isolation and a form of individualism that undercuts and goes directly against our principle of oneness. If you're really going to be courageous about this teaching, then you're going to radically embrace oneness to the degree that your responsibility engages and joins with the social sector of social conscience of everything else.
And one thing that you just said that highlighted in my mind, oftentimes I think people take oneness to be sameness. And they're not. And what this statement here, we haven't looked at the other two yet, but what this statement also has inherently in it, as David said, we didn't want to get too wordy, I guess, is the fact that there is an integralness to this. And if everything was the same, if everything in your car was the same, it's not going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. You need some engine and you need some transmission. And there is a oneness about it, but there's not a sameness about it. And that's how we have to start looking at our lives and our societies so that we can say, yes, everybody has a part to play. Everybody's valued. If your tire go flat, you got a problem. I don't care what kind of car you got. And so boom, boom, boom. That's what we're trying to create in a life that works for everyone. I mean, it's kind of simple when we put it in some comparative terms.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. This is the New Thought Media Network. This is New Thought Today. I'm here with my co-host, Reverend Elzia Sekou, Rev Z, and our special guest, Reverend Dr. David Alexander. Starting to wander into the next statement in our list, so I'm going to bring that up. We envision a world where each and every person has enough food, a home, and a sense of belonging. A world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement, and justice. Also, again, one of those really good, juicy statements. Like, wow, that is a great vision. And how do we go about that?
Yeah, well, I love this statement because it's building on the one before it. It's like, in case you don't know what that looks like, right? Here you go. Here's some examples, right? And to our vision as well. In case you don't know what does a world that work for everyone look like? Well, it probably looks like everybody having enough food and everybody having a home, everybody having a sense of belonging, and then there's some peace and there's some harmony, there's enfranchisement and justice. I love that those two words are in there. Enfranchisement in particular, right? Because it's not a word that we use a lot. We tend to use its opposite, disenfranchisement. But to be enfranchised, to be included in, right? To be embraced, to be a part of, and justice. And for me, what this means is that when we're envisioning this, it says we envision. So this is our prayer work to envision this and to see this happening. But I've said before, the moment that you take responsibility for the idea that you are one with a power greater than yourself, a power that is the infinite intelligence of the universe, the moment that you claim that on the personal level, which we do all the time. I am one. There's a power in the universe greater than I am, and I can use it, right? That this power is in me and operating through my consciousness. The moment you learn, which is pretty early on when you walk into a New Thought church, you don't have to stick around very long to get to that. The moment you claim that as your truth, then you equally and immediately also claim responsibility for every place in the world where oneness, where enfranchisement, enough food, a home, a sense of belonging, where these things are not showing up.
Yes.
You take responsibility, because if you're one with that power, then the only way that power manifests itself as a world that works for everyone is through you. Yes. The moment you claim that power for yourself, you become the point of responsibility through which it moves. Now, that doesn't mean that you personally are responsible for everything. It means that you are a part of the response to everything. And so that is, I think, again, moves us into action, gets us out of the prayerful head. Well, those who don't have and those who are suffering over there, I'll just pray for them. That what I call the love and light brigade. Every time there's a tragedy, I'll send love and light. I'll send love and light. If love and light could do it, then the Care Bears would be our logo. But I think we're more than a Care Bear technology. I think it requires that we do something. I don't send love and light when my son is hungry and tells me that he's hungry. I don't say, "Oh, well, I'll send you love and light." I get off the couch and I go make him some food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just anchors my statement. Of course, Robert, you've heard this 1,000 times: love, light, and insight, because it is through not just love and light, but it's that insight that causes you to say, "Oh, there's a spark. Let me go. Let me get up and get ignited and do something." Because this statement in my mind also kind of brings home and speaks to that again. I'm a religious scientist, so I'm gonna always take it there. It's that symbiotic relationship that we have, the perfect example of this planet that we live on, where it all works together. It's symbiotic. When that thing is working right and it's in alignment, it's just smooth. Transitions are smooth. Resolving issues are smooth. It has everything within itself, because we know the prime thing is life, right? And so the earth itself is always trying to promote life, heal life, create new life, which is what we, as an outgrowth of that, we're not different from the planet. We are a part of it. And when we can model that, amen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it becomes what Holmes calls to do joyously and free from morbidity that which we should do in the social state, right? He says in the Signs of Mind text, he says, we don't have to move the world's going to move anyway. But this realization, he says, should not lessen our social responsibility. It clarifies it. It clarifies it. And the way it clarifies it is, and then he says it allows us to do freely, joyously, and free from morbidity. I love that. Joyously and free. So what Robert did was joyful and free from morbidity.
Yes.
No sense of dread. There was no sense of, oh my God, if I don't do this, I always tell people all the time, it's like, you ever try to lose weight or get in shape out of a sense of morbidity, out of a sense of dread, like, going to the gym. Oh, I have to, oh my gosh. And how long does that last? A few weeks, maybe, right? Eventually all the wind goes out of the sail and you get distracted and you go somewhere else, you do something else. But if you're going to the gym joyously, and out of a love and appreciation for your body and your health and wellness, and there's a whole different mindset and motivation behind that. And it's the same for any kind of area of social justice or creating the world that works for all. We should do those things not because, oh my God, if we don't, the world's going to fall apart. As he says, the world is going to move anyway. The world's going to, if humanity doesn't get into that symbiotic relationship that Rev Z is talking about, then, all it takes is one good shake from Mother Earth and we will all fly off, like fleas, like a dog shaking. We'll be gone. Humanity will be gone, but the planet will be just fine. Right? Go to any empty parking lot in your city, and you'll see that the grass has broken the asphalt and the concrete and has begun to come in again. The earth will take care of itself. We need to be in a symbiotic relationship with that thing, which is a system of enoughness, of wholeness, of enfranchisement and justice. And so specifically, that means that we get up off not only to do things like coat drives or food drives, but it means, standing up and saying what needs to be said when it comes to, things like Black Lives Matter or women's rights or whoever is on the margins being oppressed. We need to look at those things too and not be afraid to say those things in our churches and from our pulpits.
Yeah. And, just real quick on that, we're going to have a great opportunity where we talk about enough food and housing and things like that and justice. When we step out of this current environment that we're in, and everybody's mindset is going to switch, whether you wanted it to or not. Mm-hmm. There's going to be some vacant buildings and jobs and other kind of opportunities that's going to need to be rethought in how we apply them, how we utilize them. And so it's going to create this wonderful opportunity for us to really dive into these statements and make them live and create the opportunity to create this thing with not a whole lot of effort. Actually, it just requires some personal responsibility and some due diligence and some joy, as you were saying. And I think, we're gonna surprise ourselves there.
And creativity, I think I don't remember if it was Holmes or Eric Butterworth who says, never was there a cosmic famine.
Yes.
So it's the creativity. It's like there's no lack of ideas that we can bring into form. That right now there's enough food, there's enough water, there's enough resources on the planet to take care of everything and everyone right now, to take care of our veterans, to honor our police officers, to honor Black lives. There's enough of all of that. What is stopping in every one of those areas are the ideas, the thoughts of not enoughness, the thought, we can't do that because it's political. Oh, we can't do that because the borders and we can't ship the food over here or whatever. And all of these things are thought forms created by man, anchored in separation. And the moment we have a new thought about any of those things, then spirit will move and the resources of enoughness will manifest themselves.
Hoo-wee, baby. This is fun. It feels like we could go for another 2 or 3 hours here, folks, but we know that we're not going to. Well, thank you for being here. Rev Z, final thoughts before we wrap this up today?
Yeah, Dave just gave me a new word for my closing affirmation, which is educate, conversate, and activate. If we do that, all else will take care of itself. So, that's my stand, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. There we go. Even our catchphrases are evolving around here, folks. So thank you for being with us. And it would not be a program if we didn't say thank you again to New Thought Media Network for all the work that goes into making this happen, and for all of you that are supporting New Thought Media Network with your gifts, your tithes, your offerings, and your dollars. Thank you so very much for that. It goes a long, long way to making sure that we can continue to bring you this programming